In 1923, a German mother left home with a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. She set the wheelbarrow down for 1 second to fix her shoe. When she looked up, the wheelbarrow was gone. The thief had dumped the money on the sidewalk and stolen the wheelbarrow. That's not a joke. That's not an exaggeration. That's what Germany's money became worth in less than 2 years, less than the wheelbarrow used to carry it. This is the story of how a modern, educated, industrialized nation watched its money become worthless paper, and how ordinary people were the ones who paid for it. To understand how this happened, we have to go back to 1914, before the collapse, before the wheelbarrows, before the chaos. Germany entered World War I confident it would win, and win quickly. So confident, in fact, that the government made a decision that would quietly plant the seed for disaster. Instead of raising taxes to pay for the war, it borrowed. It printed war bonds. It told citizens, lend us the money now, and we'll pay you back with reparations from the countries we defeat. That bet didn't just fail. It backfired catastrophically. Germany lost the war. There would be no enemy reparations flowing in. Instead, under the Treaty of Versailles, Germany itself owed reparations. Billions of gold marks, to the very countries it had been fighting. So picture the position Germany was in: a war debt at home, a reparations bill abroad, a shrunken industrial base, and a government that had already gotten comfortable with one particular tool, the printing press. They reached for it again. And this time, they wouldn't be able to put it down. Here's the part most people get wrong about hyperinflation: it isn't really about too much money. It's about trust. When the German government started printing marks to pay its debts, at first, it worked. Prices rose a little, wages adjusted, life continued. But every time the printing press ran, it diluted the value of every mark already in circulation. And people noticed. Once workers and merchants realized the money was losing value faster than they could spend it, something dangerous kicked in. Everyone started spending the second they got paid. Nobody wanted to hold marks for even a day longer than necessary. That's when inflation stopped being a number on a chart and became a self-feeding fire. Prices didn't just rise, they rose while you were standing in line. Workers were paid twice a day, because by the afternoon, a morning paycheck was already worth less. Some were paid 3 times a day. Wives would meet husbands at the factory gate to grab the cash and sprint to the store before the price of bread went up again. By late 1923, prices were doubling every 2 days. Let that sink in. Not every year. Not every month. Every 2 days. Numbers on a chart don't tell you what this actually did to people. Let's talk about what it meant to actually live through it. Anyone who had savings, the responsible people, the ones who had done everything right, were wiped out first. A lifetime of savings that could have bought a house in 1919 wouldn't buy a loaf of bread by late 1923. Pensioners who had saved responsibly for retirement found themselves destitute almost overnight, while people in debt, people who owed money, found their debts vanishing to nothing, because they could pay them off with worthless cash. This is where our opening fact comes back around. Firewood had become more expensive than currency, pound for pound. People really did burn stacks of banknotes to heat their homes, because it was cheaper than buying wood with that same cash. Children stacked blocks made of banknotes because they were more available, and worth less, than actual toys. By November 1923, prices had risen by roughly 1 trillion% since the war began. A loaf of bread that cost around 250 marks in early 1923 cost 200 billion marks by that November. Restaurants stopped printing menus with prices. A printed menu would be outdated before the appetizer arrived. So how do you stop a fire like this once it's already burning? The answer, oddly, wasn't more economic cleverness, it was trust, rebuilt almost from scratch. In late 1923, Germany introduced a new currency called the Rentenmark. It wasn't backed by gold. It was backed by land and industrial assets, a promise, essentially, that this new money meant something real. Combined with strict limits on how much new currency the central bank could issue, the plan worked almost immediately. The psychological spell broke. People believed the new money would hold its value, and because they believed it, it did. Within weeks, the wheelbarrows of cash disappeared from German streets. But the trust that had been destroyed among an entire generation of savers, workers, and retirees, that took much, much longer to rebuild. Some historians argue it never fully did, and that the resentment born from this economic trauma helped set the stage for the extremism that would grip Germany less than a decade later. Here's the uncomfortable question this story leaves behind: this wasn't a poor country. This wasn't a nation without industry, without institutions, without smart people running the numbers. This was one of the most educated, most industrialized societies on Earth, and it still watched its money become worthless in less than 2 years. So I want to ask you directly, if you had lived through this, if you'd watched your savings disappear between breakfast and dinner, what would you have done differently? Would you have spent everything immediately, like most people did? Or would you have tried to convert it into something else, gold, land, foreign currency, before it was too late? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly some of the best follow-up video ideas on this channel have come directly from that comment section. If this kind of hidden financial history is exactly what you come to this channel for, hit subscribe, because next week we're covering the collapse that came right after this one, the crash that took down Wall Street just 6 years later, and whether anyone actually saw it coming. Which part of this surprised you the most? Let me know below, and if you want more forgotten history like this, subscribe, there's a lot more coming.